Backstage Gaming is brought to you by a live studio audience. Everything I just said was perfect.
It's not not filmed in front of a live studio audience, brought to you by... Okay, this is going to be our cold open, then we'll hit theme song from there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Backstage Gaming, a new podcast about the intersection of video games and theater. It's more likely than you think. I'm Chris.
I'm Dylan.
And we are a pair of actors, voice actors, working in Chicago, and we're also big old nerds, and we wanted to make a podcast where we sort of take our lens of looking at the world and looking at art that we have developed through working as actors, and apply that lens to looking at the games that we love and the things that we love about games.
The entire idea behind this podcast is the idea of video games as an interactive medium, just like how, for the actor at least, performance is in interactive art. It is something that when other people see it, it is a performance that, especially for theater actors, is present and current and alive, and it is happening right in front of you, kind of like how a game reacts to your inputs.
And speaking to that, this episode is on a topic that kind of encapsulates this podcast really well, because it's something that I noticed about games that I would never have noticed if I was not an actor and I had not been doing this. We want to talk about the act of score chasing. So you've got your games, especially classic arcade games, but a fair number of modern games too, that reward you for good play with those juicy points at the end of the stage.
Love me some points.
And we're going to look at that and how it is similar to and different from an actor in a rehearsal room preparing for a role. So we're getting right into it right away, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So yeah, no, I think I'll start. I guess, as an actor, the first thing I can say is, it is not your project, theater especially, but I think all forms of acting. You are part of a collaborative project. And a huge part of that is that as an actor, your performance is something that is rated and evaluated, particularly by the director. So you're always going to want to try to be receptive to your director's input, much like in the way that a video game will give you more points based on whatever the creators deem better. Cooler, rather. How close your playstyle is hitting to the game's philosophy, I guess.
Yeah, and there's also a level of, in any rehearsal room, there's a level of sort of self-reflection that has to be done. You have to, as you go forward and as you are getting more and more into a role and further into the rehearsal process, the director's focus, while a lot of directors I've worked with have a very good focus on sort of actors and finding those character moments and finding those beats that work and helping the actors along to make the story the best that they can. As the process goes on, the director has so many things that they have to be keeping in their mind that isn't, what are my actors doing on stage in this exact moment? They have to start working in the set and the lighting and all of those other things that aren't you as the actor on stage. And so that necessitates you also being very self-reflective about what you're doing and was that the right mood for this moment? Was that the right action I was taking in this moment? Was that tactic working, or can I find something more active? All of these things that it's kind of on you to find the best way forward with it. And there's also an interesting sort of parallel of when you're playing a game. If I fire up Sonic the Hedgehog and I'm like, man, I'm gonna beat Chemical Plant Zone as fast as anyone has ever beat Chemical Plant Zone.
I think that's 30 seconds.
That's terrifying. Holy cow, what?
I mean, I would have to look up a speed run again.
We'll get back to my point. That's crazy. Yeah. There's two different kinds of preparation that you're doing. On the one hand, you're doing rote memorization. Sonic games, everything's always in the same place, or everything always moves in the same pattern. So when you're playing Chemical Plant Zone, it's always Chemical Plant Zone. You're memorizing by rote the layout of the level, the layout of the enemies, the layout of the obstacles. so that you can make the choices that make your path through it the best. That's memorization. That is an actor memorizing their lines. What you're also prepping is you're learning the mechanics of the game. You're learning how the game works. You're learning how the game thinks. And that's much more similar to being an actor in a room with the other human beings. You've done the rote memorization. You have all the lines. Now it's about putting the pieces together. And now it's about reacting in real time to the curveballs that the other actors are throwing you, to the edits that the director is making. It turns it from, I have to learn all of these lines, to, I have to be ready to deliver these lines in the most realistic way, even if my co-actor does something very unexpected.
Speedrunners hate RNG, but like,
Oh, I'm
you know,
sure.
when you're watching a speedrun and like something unexpected happens, like, I feel like, you know, me personally, I get a little bit more invested because I'm like, oh, they didn't anticipate this, what's gonna happen? Kind of having like these little live moments of, oh, I have to improvise now. You know, in an actual performance is something that, you know, it is something real, and like it can create something unexpected that draws the audience in even further.
Exactly. It's the difference between going to a show and like an actor walks by and like elbows a vase off the table and everyone keeps going as if nothing has happened, like humans do, I guess.
Has that happened in one of your shows?
Not in one of my shows, thankfully,
Okay,
but like,
okay.
There's a big difference between watching that, when you're like, oh, it's a play, and they're doing the things that they were told to do because it's a play, versus like that same moment someone knocks a vase off the table and the actors react to it like people and make, you know, that can sort of become a piece of the scene. They continue with the story. We're not saying like, stop and be like, oh, Julia, you're always so clumsy knocking vases off. But like, that moment can become a moment of real drama and can be used by good actors to add life to this scene by continuing with the action of the play but working around this new obstacle that's been introduced, just like RNG in a game that you're trying to speedrun.
I'm gonna throw this out here real quick. So I looked it up. I couldn't find like the current world record, but the former world record for Sonic Mania Chemical Plant Act 1 is 35 seconds. Actually, no, sorry. 34 seconds and then 77 hundredths of a second.
Fine. Fine. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Speedrunners are nonsense.
Yeah, it's crazy. So as of this Reddit post in August something, don't worry about it, Sonic's Green Hill Zone Act 1 was completed in 28.96 seconds.
That's ridiculous. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
The most immediate thing like that, you know, a moment of RNG in a show I was in, is 2 years ago, I was in a play called Scooby Don't. I played Scooby-Doo. It was great. I had a, like, sweatsuit with spots and dog ears and a tail sewn onto it. It was with a production company here in Chicago called Hell in a Handbag that does like drag and parody theater. Super fun show, but the venue was in a like dance space above a bar, and this show was running in October. And October of 2016 was when the Cubs were going to the World Series. And we were above a bar. And there were a couple nights that happened to line up with Cubs either playoff games or World Series games. And holy cow, you could not hear. Like, there would be moments when, like, something good baseball happened and the downstairs would erupt, or something bad baseball happened and the downstairs would erupt.
So, like, that's not even, like, in the game RNG. That's, like, not a power outage, but, like, the danger of a power outage happening.
That's like your mom's telling you to come get dinner.
Yeah. Your sister's changing the channel because they want to watch TV.
Exactly. But I had this moment, there was a moment where, like, Scooby and Skaggy, which was the non-trademark
Royalty
name,
free.
which also terrible name, Skaggy.
Oh boy.
Scooby and Skaggy and Kim Kardashian, I think.
This play was wild, guys.
we were like tiptoeing through, and Skaggy had this. It was the class that like Skaggy sets up the line, Scooby delivers a punchline, and it was something like, "Zoinks! This place is creepy. It's almost like." And then I had a line that was, some absurd reference. I don't remember what the actual line was, but one night the Cubs fans were being particularly boisterous. I just leaned into it and said, or he was like, "It sounds like," and I said, "a bar during the World Series with the Chicago Cubs," and the audience lost it. They lost their shit. It was super fun.
So good.
But like,
I guess like you could even count like audience reception as like a score of its own. Like, actually, yo, like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like, I mean, like,
yes.
obviously it's not.
Thank you. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah. Like, the audience is a mechanic.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, the Paper Mario games are buck wild. Like, go and get a copy somewhere of Paper Mario for the N64 or Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door for the GameCube, if you can. I don't know how hard they are to find.
Maybe Nintendo should re-release their GameCube games.
Yeah, if only there was a virtual console. Because, like, damn, those games are good. But there is a mechanic in Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, like, the whole setup of this game is super weird and super Brechtian, and, like, we'll have to do that at some point.
Oh, dude, yes.
Like, we need to do an episode just on this game.
All right, I'm gonna put a mental note for that.
Yeah, do that. But there's a moment, or there's a mechanic in the game where you have like one of your resource meters is your star meter, and you use that to use special moves. And the way that you replenish it is by entering perfectly timed button inputs to make your regular attacks stylish, which pumps up the audience that is sitting there watching the fights happen.
So good.
And it's rad as hell. And like, I mean, Dylan, I'm sure you've felt this before. There is a huge like rush whenever you feel like you're doing well in front of an audience,
yes.
And it is crushing when you feel like you're bombing.
Yes.
Like,
I don't think I've ever played a game that has captured that feeling more accurately than fucking up in Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door.
because they get this like little sound like wah, wah, sound effect, and the audience is like boo, and then like 3 of the Goombas jump away and leave your show.
You're like, oh no, my advantage.
God, what a great fucking game.
Like, that actually completely took me away from the point I had, like, stored up. But, okay, I think it was, I guess going back to Sonic real quick, and more or less every other game that I'm going to mention from here on out, is, not only is, like, scoring, like, something, like, you can use to, like, think of your performance as an actor, I think, if you are a gamer who isn't an actor and is just interested in, like, the writing and thinking of games as, like, performance, scoring in Sonic, being entirely based off of speed, is, like, a cool way to get in character. Sonic is this character who is able to breeze through these huge labyrinthian levels. He's able to reach top speeds and maintain that. It's something really cool, but also super minor if you're... I don't want to be like that guy, but like a more casual Sonic player.
If you're a filthy casual.
Not how I mean that, but like, like if you don't play...
Filthy casual.
If you're not trying to speedrun Sonic levels, it's not like as big of a focus as those games. Speed in Sonic is always more of a... the way it is utilized is speed is more of a mechanic, not a goal. So
yeah, but it is a very cool way that those designers sort of mechanically incentivized you to almost roleplay as the character that they have created.
Sonic
like, that's super
is
cool.
fast and he's a snot-nosed punk. I want to be like him.
I want to pound entire chili dogs down my throat in one fell swoop.
Where's that minigame, Sega? We need it.
Yeah, give it to me. You can make Blue Sphere, but there's no hot dog eating challenge.
I think another thing is as far as getting into character goes is actually I'm gonna save this one for later. I'm gonna skip to Metal Gear. So Metal Gear is really cool in that like you are playing as like a super soldier, or not if you look at Big Boss. It's kind of weird. But you play the entire game, and then once you get through the game, it ranks you based on how many enemies you've killed, how many times you got caught, how many times you've died or continued. And I think the coolest thing about that is that what you are trying to do is you are trying to be this legendary soldier, i.e. big boss in the lore of those games. And I think the coolest thing about Metal Gear is that the highest rank you can get for getting caught 0 times, killing 0 enemies, dying 0 times, like all of that stuff, is the big boss rank. So it is the game's way of saying, you have lived up to this legendary in-universe character, you are just as good as him, and therefore the player, like the avatar you are controlling, has earned this reputation that he has in the story.
That is super cool. I think Metal Gear is also a fun sort of example of another thing that I wanted to talk about with this, because Metal Gear, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more room for like unexpected shit to happen. Like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, you've played this game many, many times,
Yes.
and I've like attempted to play it once and ran into a security camera in a way that I thought was unfair, and then I stopped.
Get good.
Yeah, I mean, fair. But like Metal Gear, compared to something like Sonic, has a lot more moving parts. There's a lot more room for RNG's not the right term, but like the unexpected.
You can get caught in a tight spot. You're right.
Yeah.
This isn't as big of an issue in the PS1 game because guards have like this very rigid pattern, and so like once you learn the patterns, you can kind of just go through that game. But you know, as the AI has gotten more complex, there's the introduction of the caution stage, which I won't get into here, but essentially like there is more chances, like guards will be searching for you actively, so there is it's a little bit more AI based. It's not just I'm doing my patrol now. So I think there is definitely more improvisation as the series went on.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to, because that's one of the other really cool ways that these parallel each other. In, you know, there are games like Sonic and to a certain degree like the Souls series where you're getting better, but a lot of that is almost rote memorization. You memorize where the hazards are, you memorize what the best routes are, you memorize how to get through the world. Whereas something like Metal Gear Solid, like, you know all of that stuff, you're still building that sort of mental model, you're still building that memorized map of how you're supposed to go about it. But as they introduce more and more complexity and more potential for, like, oopsie, there's a man there, you're forced to, within the mechanics that are provided for you, kind of improvise your way through that situation. And, like, that is what, as an actor, you're trying to get to through rehearsal. Like, the goal, and, like, obviously there are tons of different, like, ways of thinking about acting out there. But
yeah,
for
we
me,
are talking
like,
about like straight performance.
Yeah, like I'm not method. I think that method acting is. Can you hear the contempt dripping from my voice?
Yes, I can.
I don't mean to be contemptful about it, but like a lot of people, at the very least, a lot of people that are very public about being method actors, cough cough, Jared Leto is the Joker, cough cough, like, come off it.
I feel like there are method actors, and then there are method actors who...
Yeah, and like that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah.
But anyway, like the goal for me, the happiest I ever am at the end of a performance is when I walk off of the stage and I walk backstage and I have this moment of like, I have no idea what just happened out there. Like I have not.
You were in a fugue state.
I mean, but actually though,
yeah, no,
what
I've
that
been there,
means, because what that means is that I was being in the moment. What that means is that I wasn't thinking about what I had to do. I had done all the thinking beforehand in the rehearsal process, and now I was just able to go out there and have fun and react in the moment to what was going on around me and what the other actors were giving me. And that's awesome. Like, that is the coolest feeling for me as an actor, is the moment of like, I could not tell you anything that I did, at least as far as minutia goes, out there on that stage.
I just went out there.
I just
and
know
things
that
happened.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out there and things happened and I was in character and I did my job. Like, it's a very hard thing to explain, but like, it's, you know, the parallel is here. It's that feeling of like things are going tits up. You've backed yourself into a corner in Metal Gear Solid, but you know the mechanics and you know the system well enough that you are able to get out of it.
Yeah.
With that, and then like I've Metal Gear Solid, not so much for me, but I've had moments like that in games where, you know, I can't remember what I did.
Yeah, for me that's more like the arcadey action shooters, which I feel like it's a little harder to like justify getting into character there, but you know,
but it's still a rehearsal. It's still you're learning how the game works and how the game thinks and how you are supposed to operate within it.
Yeah, like Downwell's what I'm thinking of.
Oh my god, what a fun game. Like, seriously, if y'all have like $10, go on Steam and buy Downwell. It's weird and fun and great.
Yeah, I think it's also on consoles now. At least I know it's on PS4. I think it might
Devolver
be
Digital makes a lot of really cool games.
Now we're doing our plugs.
Yeah. Thank you for the $0, Devolver Digital.
Yeah. But seriously, pay us.
And now that we're out of the sponsorship section.
I was gonna talk about similar to Metal Gear, there's also Fire Emblem.
Yes.
Where it's less of like, you know, it's kind of the same thing where like you do better the less times you mess up. In all honesty, you're graded on, you know, not letting people die, getting all the characters you possibly can. But in addition to that, you also get scored on things like how many funds we still have, like how good are you at getting your units to. Honestly, I feel like, you know, having not been a stage manager myself, I feel like that's what being a stage manager is like.
Just trying to herd cats and keep people from dying.
Yeah. And like,
yeah, I feel
having to put up with bullshit that keeps getting thrown your way.
God, honestly, go hug your local stage manager.
Oh my gosh,
like,
they are the real champions.
Seriously though,
when I originally jotted down Fire Emblem to talk about for this episode, I was thinking like, you know, playing through the original Fire Emblem right now, which is a very surreal experience. Joining the series at the Game Boy Advance games, trying to play well in like the way that like I am rewarded in other Fire Emblem games in the original has gotten me to like kind of assume the role of Marth more than I would if I was just playing the game regularly. Like,
interesting.
Oh, this character died, that's fine. But it's like, no, I need everyone to live. Like, so that causes me to think harder about my tactics. On the other hand, because the characters aren't as like, you know, they're not really characters, they're chess pieces with some flavor text. In the original at least. I feel less bad about like moving on. Also because like the chapters are so long and so arduous to finish. But I think that creates this interesting thing of like, you know, unlike other Fire Emblem games where I will restart if I lose something.
I can't let my sweet baby Rise die.
Exactly, like
I need my baby Rise.
I love Rise. But like
I love like 90% of the characters in Path of Radiance.
Path of Radiance, dude, is so good. But anyway,
the whole cast.
the thing is like, I feel the consequences of my actions. Like, when a unit dies, I lose not just, you know, however much EXP I put into that character, I'm also losing resources, like whatever they were carrying is gone. Not so much in this game, but in future games, I lose the possible opportunity to recruit and meet more people. I am cutting off my connections. It's a really interesting experience, and I feel like if you haven't done an Iron Man playthrough of a Fire Emblem game, that's essentially like if a unit dies, you keep going. It's really interesting. I recommend it.
I've done that a couple times with Path of Radiance, and it's fucking sad.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
a sad day.
Because like when they're actual characters, like you feel more than just like the mechanical or, you know, the I'm an army manager loss. You actually kind of you're losing a friend.
I think that there's something interesting done along these lines in. I think platformers are cool. I think that there's an interesting element of like, you have to learn the rules that the world works by. You have to practice and put in the time to like come to understand all your options in like something like Super Mario 64. Like, that game is all about learning the different ways that you have to traverse the world and learning the layouts of these playgrounds that you have created for you so that you can accomplish your goal. And there's not an element of score chasing there so much as just like, in order to beat the game,
it's improving your performance, right?
Yeah, there's like self-implied scoring.
Yeah.
And like,
it's like a personal thing.
Yeah, you have to have that same kind of like, am I doing this right? Is there a better way of doing this? Do I know the mechanic? Like, can I make that jump? Is there a way for me to make that jump? You see that a lot in like Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Like, people, you can jump to some places in that game. Like, that game's bonkers with like all of the nuts stuff that people have figured out how to get to with the different jump mechanics that you have. And like, I think that games that allow you to get that deep in, same with like, you know, the Legend of Zelda games aren't score chasing games, but like the speedrunner community has turned them into that. Like, that's really cool. They're these games that, because of the mechanics and because of their construction, you can kind of find your own scoring metric for them.
Yeah.
Even if sometimes, for like in speedrunners' cases, that scoring metric is like, well, can I run through this wall? Yes, I can.
But I mean, like, even then, like, I feel like I've seen some speedruns, especially at like GDQ, where they kind of treat that as a performance,
which
like,
is super cool.
Yeah.
Like, it is. Especially ones that like, there are those that are like frame perfect or pixel perfect, where like you have to really have put in the time and know
at GDQ,
what fucks
like,
up and why fucks up.
The audience like is informed of the stakes by either the runner or the co-commentator, and then when they pull off this difficult trick, everyone's in the know and there's applause. And speedrunning is really cool, and I really like it, but I could never do it.
Yeah, I think that that's another episode idea coming in. I think that the idea of like,
episode 1 is really just going to be more of a sample platter, I think.
I think that gaming, the way that gaming has become a like consumable media, like, and by that I mean like watching people play games is now like, it's not just what you do when you're over at your friend Jerry's house when you're 12. It's like a form of entertainment that people are making money off of, and like personalities are coming out in, and there's like, that's interesting. I think that there's something for us there.
Bullet point.
Boop. That's my bullet point noise.
Yeah, well, hopefully you peek the mic and then you're like, oh, there it is, I found it.
I did not. It's very small.
Okay, next on the agenda, we got completionist. Scoring as completionist. So, you know, it's not enough, like, some people aren't satisfied with the game being like, oh, you did this well.
Am I right, gamers? Oh, wow, that peaked hard.
Wow, really?
Let me get another of the... Am I right, gamers? Everything's funnier when you have to repeat it due to technical difficulties.
Oh man, we're really good at this.
I think that our boyish charm will get us through this.
Let's hope. Let's pray. But anyway, I think that you know, there's two kinds of things. There's two kinds of metrics where like people will grade themselves when they're gaming. There is scoring points, which is based on reception and techniques and, you know, all manner of things. It's essentially being judged by, I guess, an objective metric, a quantifiable metric. There's also scoring as like a completionist thing, which is also quantifiable, but it's less of like, I did this way, so I get this many points, and it's more, I have done everything in this game that I can do. I have found everything, and the game has seen that and acknowledges that and rewards that. So specifically what I'm thinking of and what I'm going to visit is Metroid Prime first. So Metroid Prime is this cool series.
Sorry,
where,
that was
you know,
far more sexual of a noise than I meant for it to come out.
It's fine, keep it. So Metroid Prime is this game series where you have Samus. You're really literally stepping into Samus's suit, and I think the coolest thing about that is it kind of, you learn how to characterize and identify with Samus. And I know identifying with the character you're portraying is not necessarily an acting thing, but I think it helps. I think it does play its own role.
And the game does a really cool thing to help with that, where whenever you start that game, you see Samus head on, and then the camera like pulls around behind and literally zooms into the back of her head.
You are stepping into
as
this
if to
role.
say like, hey, this you now.
Yeah.
Do it.
Like with Metroid Prime, you are literally in Samus's visor, and you kind of get this bigger idea of her based on like what the capabilities of her visor are, and also her power suit. But the most important thing, I think, is the completionist pursuit, which is the in addition to the upgrades, finding the upgrades, you also have the visor completion, where for everything you scan, for every like little bit of lore you collect, that is its own collectible. And so
which is so cool.
When you collect all of these things, like, you are awarded, at least in like certain versions of Metroid Prime, I'm not sure if every version has this, but you're awarded with things like artwork, or you get achievements and stuff like that. So the coolest thing about Metroid is that like you are assuming the role of Samus, who is this super perceptive, studious character. She's able to like make notes on these different types of creatures and learn their habits and how they act. And I think that is one of the coolest things about Metroid Prime. And I think the fact that the game incentivizes you to do this, and they really want you to not only explore everything, but discover these new alien species, it kind of changes Samus's character from, the bang bang, I'm gonna blow everything up character she kind of is in the 2D games. Like, not exactly, but a lot of the old Metroid games is incentivized with like discovering everything by like bombing everything.
Yep.
And completing it as fast as you can.
There could be wall meat.
Exactly. So what's interesting about Metroid Prime is that you are, it's not just about like getting through this labyrinth, it's about kind of learning about this forgotten civilization and learning about like what is here now after this old civilization is left.
Yup.
And that is, I love Metroid Prime. It's definitely one of my top 5.
No, it's so good. And there's like just little things. Metroid Prime came out in goddamn 2002.
Was it 2002? Oh my god.
It was 2002, and to this day, it still has some of the like coolest graphical touches I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah.
There are certain moments where, due to either light or like fog condensing, you will see Samus's eyes reflected back at you in the visor overlay. When you turn the X-ray visor on, you can see her hand making the different like shape configurations to change the weapon type that you're using, which those hand shapes match up to the like logo for what the weapon is on your visor heads-up display, which is so fucking cool.
So I wanted to point this out. If you're playing the game with a GameCube controller, you're even changing her weapon, which is on her right arm, with the C-stick,
right,
which is on the right side of the controller, and
it's
you're
so
changing
good.
her visor with her left hand, which is the control pad on the left side of the controller. And I don't know if they put that much thought into it, but like it's really fucking cool.
It's a nice, like, it's another case of like a game being very good about mechanically incentivizing you to get into character, which is really cool. Also, just a little fun fact, because I wanted to make sure I knew when this game came out, November 17th, 2002. I Googled it. Metroid Prime has a goddamn 97% Metacritic rating.
It earns it.
It deserves it, absolutely. But like, good on you, Metroid Prime. Great game.
Can't wait for 4. Hope Nintendo shows it off soon.
Hey, Nintendo.
Listen, I'm just asking for Metroid Prime 4. I mean, it's fine that it's not out yet, but I really need news.
All we want is Metroid Prime 4 and like maybe a virtual console. That's it.
Oh.
And like a good virtual console. That's been our ASMR hour.
That's ooh, yeah. So I guess from that, I'm gonna segue into Virtual Console's cool, Nintendo's cool, you should re-release your old games, like Zelda Majora's Mask.
Nailed it.
Which is also a game that's...
nailed it.
Something I kind of glossed over with Metroid Prime, but will double down on in Majora's Mask is the idea of completion netting you a more complete ending. So, the coolest thing about Majora's Mask is how the huge emphasis it has on side quests. I think, like, after that, like, a lot of Zelda games have a lot of emphasis on side quests. Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild coming to mind. But, I think the cool thing about Zelda's Majora's Mask is that completion, if you do not complete the Bomber's Notebook, or I don't think that's necessarily true, but if you don't collect every mask, you are depriving yourself of scenes in the ending. And I think Majora's Mask is such an oppressive game. The plot is literally, I have 3 days to save the world before it ends, and everyone knows the world is going to end. And this is them trying to make peace with that in the time they have given, or ignore it. You don't know. But I think the cool thing is, like, because the game wants you to experience all these side stories, because that's what Majora's Mask is. It is a collection of side stories. There is a main quest, but that is not really that's not the focus. Majora's Mask is a game about connecting with people.
It's Groundhog's Day.
It is literally Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog.
Like, that comparison is not new, but it's not just Groundhog's Day in that you're repeating the same day. It's Groundhog's Day in that you become better at it by learning about the people around you, just like Bill Murray had to learn about the people around him to not be an asshole.
And I think that characterizes, not only does that give that particular Link his own distinct flavor of character, but I think... Well, yeah, I mean, like, that was really the big part. But I think it also kind of sends this message, which I guess, tacking on more things to this original, like, theater podcast. But I guess, like, just the idea of, like, reaching out to other people is something that is really beautiful about Majora's Mask. And, I think game designers are able to hide this idea of performance and trying to be better at performing. And, using that to tell a message is really cool. And I think, all of the games that I've mentioned so far have done this in some capacity. Fire Emblem is about responsibility and, like, being able to make hard decisions. Metal Gear is the same thing, but you are on your own. And also, please don't be a crazy murderer. Sonic is just about going fast. That's fine.
Sonic just want to go fast, eat chili dog.
Sonic is simple, and that's why
we
love him.
Go fast, eat chili dog, inspire horrific fan art.
Yeah. But I think all the games we've mentioned so far all have some double message to them, and the fact that game designers are able to hide that behind little points and other incentives is really cool.
Yeah. There's a movement going on, particularly in, like, the indie game sort of world, of making games that are more about story, making games that are more about character, making games that allow for a more nuanced kind of storytelling. But the nice thing is, we've kind of always had that. Like, yes, we've always had our, Doom and first-person shooters that are, like, maybe have a story, but that's not why you play them, or...
Yeah, amazing games can have schlocky stories, like...
Yeah, but there's always been this sort of element of one of the things that makes games special is that you can engage with them, and that has allowed for people making games to engage with some really interesting ideas and get people to think about really interesting ideas without being like, sit down and read my treatise. Like... BioShock is, one of the obvious ones, where it's like, it is a game about engaging with this idea of objectivism, engaging with morality, but it does that, barring the monologues at the beginning and the end, it does that entirely through gameplay and entirely through holding a mirror up to your actions as a player. We've lost the topic a lot.
Oh yeah.
So thank you everybody for listening to our first episode of Backstage Gaming. A little bit rambly, but we will hopefully be able to tighten our focus. I think the issue right now is we just have so much that we want to talk about that it's hard to stay on topic. But
this is the sample platter episode. We'll be talking about theater. Like I think like we'll be talking about what we're trying to get at with this episode. Hopefully that got through to you. Is that we'll be talking a little about theater, we'll be talking a little about performance, both performing as a character as an actor, or performing as a character as a player, and how immersion in video game stories specifically can enable people to reach messages they might not have normally reached.
I've got a couple ideas that I also want to bring in, less from the video game side of things and more from like the tabletop role-playing game side of things, because I think that that's also an interesting world. But yeah, every week we'll do something a little bit different. But thank you so much for listening to our inaugural episode. If you like what you heard today, if you like what we had to say, please give us a subscription on iTunes, leave a review. That'll really help us get this podcast off the ground. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody you know who you think would be interested in what we have to say about theater or games or the combination thereof. We aren't going to be paying to advertise this show. We aren't going to be paying to put up banner ads anywhere. We're just going to be trying to spread the word on social media. So anything you can do to help us out with that would be awesome. Please feel free to tweet about us using the hashtag BSGpod. And yeah, anything you can do to help us get this going forward would be amazing and heavily appreciated. We have a few people we want to thank. Thank you very much, first off, to our friend Brendan French for making our logo for us. If you like his stuff, if you like what you see there, you can check him out at Brennan, that's BRENNEN-French.squarespace.com. Thank you also to BioQuery for the use of our theme song, Dot Sound Radio Volume 1 Instrumentality. BioQuery is a friend of mine from school. You can find him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/BioQuery. That's soundcloud.com/BIOQUERY. If you like our theme song, if you like electronic music or weird experimental pop, definitely check him out. He's got some really great stuff.
I love it.
Hit us with those URLs.
All right. This is Backstage Gaming. If you want to visit us at our site, visit bsgpod.com. That's bsgpod.com. And if you would like to send us an email, send an email to us at back.stage.gaming.cast@gmail.com.
There's a lot of
dots
email
there.
addresses I would have liked to have that were not available for some reason, so that's the best we got.
It happens. Our Twitter handle is at BSG_cast.
Feel free to reach out to us by email if there's any games or topics you want to hear us address, if you're just curious about, like, things about being a working actor, because it's weird and there's not a lot of people who talk about it who haven't already kind of made it. Our website will have our episodes up there, obviously. I'm also planning on having a page dedicated to sort of bios for me and Dylan, maybe links to our personal sites or our personal Twitter accounts. But yeah, thank you for listening through our first episode. We hope to hear you. That's not true. We hope that you'll listen again next week. We hope that you'll listen again next week when we put out our next episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, we have been Backstage Gaming.
We love you all.